Hello everyone, and welcome back to my tutorial campaign in Realistic Progression 0, the campaign mod for the Realism Overhaul suite of mods in Kerbal Space Program. Apologies for the gap at the start. Twitch has been misbehaving recently for me, so there were a couple seconds of gap. So in the last episode, we did Oodles of Science. We sent some biological samples out past the moon into interplanetary space. Now, with the fruit of that, we have 70 science points. We are 135 days, about a third of a year away from unlocking basic capsules. And let's assess all our research. I think we've actually bought most of... I wish KCT's thing stayed up during when we're in the R&D. But it looks like we've basically bought most everything we can. We have 70 science. We need 75 for electrics, so we can't afford that yet. So now it's time to put up an eye in the sky. We're going to send up a film return camera. We're going to get some film back, and then we'll recover it safely, which will also be a test of our heat shields prior to unlocking basic capsules. So let's go ahead and look at the contracts we might have. We have a sounding rocket contract, which we actually, since we're going into low orbit, probably won't in fact make. We don't have successful reentry as an option yet, but that's okay because, well, might as well use the advance anyway. So let's kill off some of these. We're certainly not going to do that. We'll do a Mars flyby later. We'll pass the Kármán line later. Okay, maybe I missed it and it popped up. Anyway, my eyes have issues. Main point is, we have a year to do it. We need to be going fast. We get a lot of money for it, and we even get a little bit of science from doing it. So let's go ahead and accept that. So now we have to design something to do that. It's worth noting that in real life, the first things to do this were the US Corona spy satellites, also known as KH-1 and then later KH-2. And those first satellites were launched on Thor Agena A launch vehicles. And Agena A is going to be, I think, broadly as capable as what we're doing with Ablestar. Where we have something kind of similar to Thor Ablestar, basically. So I think we can get by doing this with the Scorpion B that we were using. So let's see. So we have to design something that's going to re-enter safely. Happily, we can use our I think step one is this thing has a draw rate of 120 watts. Let's look at this. This draws 150 watts. So we don't actually gain that much by doing it. What we would gain a lot by doing is if we got this Agena Avionics package, because it can lower its wattage down to 10 watts. But I'd really rather not have a new stage if I can avoid it. So let's see let's see what we can do with really only a single with just a single orbit or two, so that we don't run out of electric charge. So let's go ahead, and we're going to have this sounding rocket telemetry unit, because we don't actually need our reentry to be controllable. Now we're going to have to unlock a heat shield. And I think let's unlock the 1 meter heat shield. It's only 60 kilograms, not that heavy. We have to pay a large entry cost to unlock basically this heat shield technology. But then once we do, the rest of them will be fairly cheap. We might be able to get by with the 0.625, but I'd rather not risk it. So let's go ahead and do that. Look at the size of that. That is a large heat shield. The downside, of course, is that we will have to leave this film return camera, which costs $20 million to unlock and costs $1 million, in orbit. Very tragic, but we can't really afford to have a heat shield large enough to shield it on its return, because we can't afford that in terms of mass. So for this, let's put, well, we don't actually need to control it at all, do we? The main point is just it has to be aerodynamically stable. So let's go ahead and add The other thing we have to consider is that we're probably coming down over the water, and this right here will sink. This will definitely sink. So we're going to need something to prevent it from sinking. What can we do? Well, I mean, biological samples are, that's 15 kilograms. We've already gotten a biological sample from space, but wouldn't hurt to get another one. And that now won't sink, which is nice. Okay, now let's worry about some parachutes. Parachute. Let's get the, and we'll just do a procedural cone chute, because I don't really care. I usually do the stack chutes, but this is fine. So we'll make it that size, and in fact we'll just move it right over the, first we want to get range safety on this, because if something goes wrong, we want to blow everybody up. Alright. Now, we'll go ahead and, what is the case mass? 13 kilograms. That's kind of disgustingly heavy, but we'll go with it. The total power mass is high because the chute's quite large, but we'll soon sort that out. We want to use current craft mass, use wet mass because we don't want to risk a full heat shield. Pre-deployment at 4 kilometers, deployment at 1,000 kilometers. We don't want to mess around. Supply settings, and it goes down to only 6 kilograms of parachute. Now, here comes the most important part of this entire building process. We flip the whole thing over. We open up FAR. And let's do a static analysis. We are only very barely stable. That's kind of depressing. Let's zoom in a bit. Yes, we're not very stable. Let's look at higher speed. Again, we're really not stable. Still, now in fact we've gone a little unstable. So the way I've been telling this is, let's zoom in a bit more and maybe you can see better. Not really. This yellow line, well, what can we, let me add, actually, let me go ahead and add some itty bitty baby fins here. So that will shift our things back. Yes, that's hilarious, but it will come on. Length, width, offset. All right, let's see if now we get a decent. Oh, right, I have to go back out again. Okay, now you can see this yellow CM curve. See, yellow CM. That's basically what this is saying, is that it being under the line means you're going to return to your neutral attitude. Basically, that will provide a pitch down moment. When it's above, it's providing a pitch up moment because we have negative angle of attack. You always want this line sloping down to get aerodynamic stability. Let's look at 20. Let's look at 5. Notice how it does change based on the Mach number. And subsonic, which we don't really care about. Subsonic, it's not really curved. It's sort of a flat line. And I just realized I probably still had my cursor off from the Go for Launch stream. It is now back. Okay, so now we can see this yellow line. The issue here is that without these wings, we're in trouble. We're okay subsonic, although look at this. That little cross is where it's going to align itself, and it's going to align itself apparently at about 4 degrees angle of attack. I'm not really sure why. So that's basically its neutral point. Now, I'm also somewhat annoyed because I would love to put this inside an aeroshell with procedural fairings, but procedural fairings still have some serious bugs with aerodynamics. I mean, eDOG's procedural fairings. I'm not talking about the stock ones. I mean, the stock ones are okay, but procedural fairings for everything converts them to eDOG's model, which he has not had a chance to fix, I guess, or can't reliably reproduce or something, and I haven't had a chance to fix because I've kind of been busy. So sadly, despite them looking awesome for making an aeroshell, I can't use them to make an aeroshell because they just burn off. And hopefully maybe someday he will actually fix that bug. So yeah, we're left with doing things the other way. I guess actually this might, let's see what happens if we do it with just the chute. Part of the problem is that chute is actually somewhat heavy. Let's see, previous size, shrink it on down. Okay. Whoops, no, we want that. Now let's see what happens. Now we're unstable. Now we're very definitely unstable. Let's look at Mach 25. Interesting. We're stable at Mach 25. Mach 20, Mach 10, Mach 5, Mach 2. Interesting. So only when we get subsonic are we going to be unstable. Well, that seems fine to me because we don't really care about our orientation when we're subsonic. We really only care about our orientation when we're coming screaming through the atmosphere and there's lots of heat. And boy, are we stable in that orientation. So I think we'll just go with that. Hopefully this will be enough to float. The the other thing what else could we do for floating? I mean, it really is vaguely tempting to try to return that film camera, but I know it's not a good idea. I just know it. We don't really care about batteries that much, and besides which, they're actually kind of heavy. We could just put a little itty bitty fuel tank right there and have it empty, just as a structural component. I mean, the other option is just to re-enter over land, and then we don't have to matter. And that's actually probably the saner thing to do anyway. So let's go ahead and do that. So that's cool. This is going to decouple. But I think I don't actually want it to decouple. I think I want to recover the heat shield too. Heat shields are not cheap. And we'd like to know how it behaved after a re-entry anyway. And you kind of can't do that if you decouple it from a kilometer up and it goes boom. So instead, we're going to need to add a decoupler under this. Don't need much of one. Now we put the film return camera in there. And now let's see what kind of a margin we have. We have about 100 kilograms to spend, it looks like. So we're going to disable this decoupler. We're going to remove the retros because we don't need them. We're going to deorbit with main stage propellant. That joint does not fill me with confidence, so let's add some struts. Okay. Let me look here because I think I might have just made a mistake. Yes, I did make a mistake. Let's look at what it says for this. It says, includes data storage for returning data to Earth. Use ship manifest to transfer the data. And right over here, somewhere down here, doop-de-doop, it has... Maybe it was at the top? No, I guess that module isn't listed in... Okay, but the point is that it does have the science info storing module. The sounding rocket telemetry core does not. That's bad. I was about to make a very expensive mistake. So we will have to swap this out for the early controllable probe core, which is like, okay. The downside is that well, it does mean we can use some little cold gas jets to orient us. But we do have to reassess the avionics again. We do have to reassess the aerodynamics again. We are on current config nitrogen, TL1 nitrogen, and we want to add how much nitrogen do we want? 432. That is probably fine. Next, we're going to disable the nitrogen so that these RCS jets don't fire when they shouldn't. We're going to go ahead and increase the size of this just so it looks nice, basically. Just a wet mass. Okay, we're now, the tonnage has increased slightly. Whoops, go back there. Now we're going to offset these so they're at the top of this cone, so we actually get some serious lever arm. That's fine. Okay. Now let's flip this over again and see what FAR thinks. Now we're back in trouble again. Now we're definitely back in deep trouble. At Mach 25, it becomes stable, holding through Mach 20, Mach 15, Mach 5, 0. Okay, so I think basically what we will do, we do have these attitude jets. Now let me just look at its parachute. We did increase its size. Its mass has gone up, but it's only gone up to 13 kilograms. Now, admittedly, 13 kilograms is a fair amount, but it seems odd that that alone would be causing this problem. So we could try to weight things further down. We could try going with this, go back to the smaller chute size, which makes things lighter again. I mean, let's try that, see what happens. We'll need to move our attitude jets back again. Let's see what FAR thinks now. Okay, now we're statically stable even at Mach 30. At Mach 25, we have the same stability. At Mach 20, we have the same stability. Let's go down to Mach 5. We're actually slightly less stable. Mach 2, we've become slightly unstable, but by that point, I think we'll you know, who cares if we're unstable? So I deem that acceptable. All right, let's put this back together. How heavy is this? This is far too heavy. So that also is part of it. That electric charge is what's weighing it down. We really I don't think we need that much on the probe core. Let's try half a kilowatt hour and an even 500 liters of nitrogen. Now let's look at the analysis. Now that I like that. At Mach 30, we're still super stable. Although interestingly, despite, as far as I can tell, everything being symmetrical, the static point is slightly above 0. It looks to be about 1 or 2 degrees positive angle of attack. Not sure why. Probably just either the collider for this isn't symmetrical, or just an interesting vocalization thing. I should mention, while we're watching this white beam of light sweep back and forth, that's basically visually shows us, if we look from this angle, you can see it more. That's the 20 degrees positive AOA up here, and this is minus 20 for the negative AOA, the sweep range that we've called for here. All right, so it is stable, even though I'm really nonplussed at that. Not really sure why that's happening. I mean, I guess we could check while we're here. Let's turn on the display voxels. The voxelization looks, I mean, I'm not seeing anything out of place here. So not really sure why that is. And the RCS is centered, so that wouldn't be doing it. Anyway, doesn't really matter. 1 degree offset just means we'll be we won't have any control over roll, and we'll probably spin up slightly prior to re-entry anyway, just to hold stability, so it's not really going to matter. So yeah, that part is completed. Our total mass thus far is 126 kilograms. Let's put this back on. Our total mass now is 338. Don't need these wing pieces anymore. Yeah. Oh, and I should mention this node over here. That's just how procedural fairings handles having more or fewer nodes. I'm not really sure why he didn't just destroy the nodes, but whatever. Nodes no longer make any difference to FAR, so who cares whether they exist or not. As Ferrum has pointed out many times on his thread, nodes don't actually matter, so they can't have any effect on anything. Right, so it's interesting. Do we have, where is that being decoupled anyway? Did I disable staging? Ah. That and that. Now, what puzzles me, oh, I know what's going on here. Right, this tanks weren't full. That would explain things, wouldn't it? Now we have our notional delta V back. 9281. Now, if memory serves, we can get into orbit with about 9050. So we have a fair amount to play with in terms of adding extra electric charge, because we are going to have some serious electric charge draw. Now, also before I forget, let's go ahead and action group this. Take photographs. The issue here being that this Able avionics unit uses 150 watts. Probe core, when in warp, uses 1 watt. That's not really relevant to our existence. I also should add a couple antennas, just because I don't know what our altitude's going to be. Is there a good place to put them? Not really. Two of you. That is acceptable. Because we're not actually going to decouple that at all. Turn them on that way. Okay. Now, the next thing we have to worry about is, I think we've over-provisioned this with hydrazine. And I think that if we start lowering the hydrazine load, let's see, we have almost 30 kilograms of hydrazine. That's just too much. We really don't need that much. So let's see where we can shave off some. Okay, so that's down, cut in half. That gave us some back. Let's go ahead and put all this stuff on. And doesn't that look nice? Now, we want to decouple these up here. And what the heck is, oh, this we want to decouple here. All right, so let's call this SkyCam, I guess. So now let's look at, yeah, I thought so. There was an issue with those tanks not sizing right. All right, so let's move them back up. All right, that's probably enough hydrazine. All right, 9314. That should be plenty. So now we can add some serious business electric charge. So let's calculate. We have 150 watts, so that's 0.15 plus 0.001 is 0.151. So 0.151 times, how many orbits do we want? Let's say something like 6 orbits times 90 minutes per orbit, notionally, times 60 seconds per minute. That's just under 5,000 electric charge. Right, so let's go ahead and add some electric charge. So take these off again, and gold foil, because what battery is not going to be gold foil? And we want a filled cylinder with a small diameter of about 50 millimeters, a length of, all right, apparently that's the limit to what we can do. All right, let's fill that with electric charge. And see how much we get. 1801. All right, so we need more than that. 2476. That's just about right. But let's get ambitious. Yeah, total mass of this. Oh, that's. Oh, it hasn't updated for the new. Yeah. No, it did. Okay. Only 30 kilograms total for 10,000 EC. All right, so we can go ahead and add plenty more. Let's go up to 200. Okay. And how much is that? That's 11 times 2 is 22. Yeah, so 22,000 EC. All right, so we can do about 30 orbits. So that's like a day and a half anyway. Yeah, we use 13,000 electric charge a day. Okay, so this will give us, well, let's up it ever so slightly so we get a solid 4-day loiter time. No, sorry, 2-day loiter time. So we want about 13,000 in each of these. Okay, that'll do. Right. Now, let's go ahead and plop them underneath. Okay. So that's good. Check our delta V. Our delta V is still, I think, going to be okay for what we're asking of it. And we still have some reserve capacity with that hydrazine, maybe about 20 meters per second, which might even be enough to deorbit if we really needed to. The fairings are wrong again, but that's kind of expected because that's how that works. All right, and we did action group that just fine, and we action grouped the antennas. So yeah, let's go ahead and build a couple of these. Now, this is fairly expensive, 4,900, but it's a lot cheaper than if we were going to launch it atop the big launch vehicle. Yeah. So, given we're overthrust, we could stretch this stage a little bit, although I kind of hate to change a launch vehicle once I've made it. Like we could consider going up to 2 minutes 50 seconds. The engine would probably take it. But, well. So, yeah. Let's see. Do we have anything else building? No. Okay, so we'll go ahead and build, we'll call this Skycam 1, build, Skycam 2, build. Tragically, we do not have enough delta V for polar orbit. Which means we're going to miss out on the poles, and I think that's all we'll miss out on. So how long is this going to take to build? Probably a while. 51 days. That's not terrible. So we're going to actually have to wait until we complete that. Before we can upgrade R&D, because we need that 400 funds. We're at 379. It's very tragic. Let's warp 2. Guys. Come on. There we go. Okay. Roll it out. Day launch. That's nice. Oh, it was because of the SOI change. That's why the warp killed. I didn't notice the dialog popped up. Yeah, so the question is, what was my launch profile for that thing? It has now been more than 5 minutes, and therefore I can't remember. It's not the big feller, so it's going to have a lower launch profile. Let me see if I can find it from here. Subassembly, Scorpion B. Did I put it in here? No. All right, well, I'll just have to figure it out on the fly, basically. Fairly sure it's going to be something like 80 meters per second turn start, 110 turn end, 35 turn shape, I think. Is that going to be right? Yeah, it does have that 5-minute burn. Let's do 110. We can always... yeah, because we want like a 200 by 200 orbit. We don't want something really low, unless we're really terribly desperate for delta V, which I really don't think we will be. Okay. I mean, it actually probably wouldn't cost us that much if we launched into, say, a 30-degree orbit, but I don't think that'll gain us anything, so we'll just launch due east. So, T-minus 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5 main engine sequence start, 3, 2, 1, liftoff. Roll program. And actually, I think we're going to start our turn at 70. Pitch program. While this is going on, it won't actually let me look at the upgrades, because upgrades are a good way to take stock of where you are in your campaign, because basically they're what you sink funds into. And you can sort of tell your progression in the campaign not just by the number of tech nodes you've researched, but by how much extra funds you have had to sink into KCT upgrades. KCT upgrades are a thing that you want to buy a lot of. If memory serves, we're up at something like 40 already. I'll check when we're next in KSC. Okay, looks like I might have turned a little steep there. We'll see. But yeah, and in fact, in some ways it might make more sense to have invested a bit in those upgrades already, so that when we get the rewards from this contract, we'll only just have enough to fund upgrading the research and development building, although I think we were at like 370 something, so we'll probably just have enough anyway. Okay, watching our time to apogee increase. It looks like it's going to end up around 2 minutes, which is about right for that stage if we pitch up a bit after separation. Let's see. About 20 seconds to MECO. Our apogee is climbing. It's good. We're going to pitch up a little bit just now to align back with the prograde vectors, so we've got plenty of time to apogee. 2 seconds, 1 second, burnout, staging. RCS engaged, turn the gimbal down. Separate the fairings. Let's check how we're doing on these. Okay, that is much less high. I thought there were 7 liters of hydrazine in each of these tanks. There's actually 4. So we'll have to be rather sparing. But I think we'll be okay. 3 minutes 50 seconds to burnout, although we're going to reach orbital velocity before that, I believe. Let me just check. Oh yeah, we'll have like maybe 200 meters per second spare. Now, the thing about Corona, okay, let's go level because we don't want to get too high. The thing about, and we're building up some steering losses because we're pitching under prograde. What I really should have done was let the main stage pitch down and then pitch up on this. The thing about Corona was they launched to really low orbits, like I think 160 by 160 or something. We're launching a bit higher because we don't need the kind of clarity that the US needed looking at Soviet missile sites. We just need some nice photographs. And I'm going to go ahead and change this so that MechJet will cut in case I get distracted. Oh crap, no. Needs to be higher than that. Because we're about to hit 190, and MechJet would have cut out right then. Oh, looks like now we've used up some of that hydrazine. $50. Okay, we're going to turn RCS off prior to pitch up because now we're going to have to pitch up. Let the main engine do that. Really, there needs to be a mod, and I know what I'm doing when I say this because probably I will have to write it. There needs to be a mod that will set RCS to not actuate on any axes that you do have engine gimbal on. Alright, so we're going to fall past apogee just slightly and then circularize, it looks like. Which is fine. Still got plenty of hydrazine. Oops. Letting that get away from us. Okay, this is a rather tighter margin than I would like. But nonetheless, we've actually ended up in very close to one of those original Corona orbits, as it happens. 198 by 144. Quite funny. Looks like what we're actually going to need to do is raise that perigee just a bit. We're now descending from apogee. Got to be very sparing with that RCS. We don't have a lot of it. And I think we want to burn right about at this angle. a little bit more. There we are. That's a much more decent orbit, and that did not really use much propellant at all. Okay, so now let's go to TAC Fuel Balancer. That's one of the few mods that I have that wasn't just a standard recommended mod, because we want to make absolutely sure that the early controllable core is set to transfer in, and that these are set to transfer out, because they are our main batteries, so they should go first, then the avionics unit, and then finally that controllable core. Okay, so now let's go ahead and get some pictures. So we're flying in space over Earth's water. Better take a picture of that. Look at the data size. Never ever hit this button. Ever. You will be waiting a long time. We're going to keep the experiment. We're going to go to Ship Manifest. We're going to go to Science. We're going to select the film return camera on one side, the controllable core on the other, and we're going to transfer. Bingo. Now, we're going to wait until we get over the next biome. And looks like that's going to be, I think we want to be right about here. Okay, so let's take another picture. Grasslands. Transfer that out. Now let's see if we can nail the shores. Isn't that nice? The camera's doors on the other side of this thing are actually pointing towards what we're taking a picture of. Okay, let's see if we can... Where are we? Center the Earth. All right. I think we want to warp to about here. And then we'll be coming up on the shores. Bingo. No, why did you forsake me? I pressed 3 while it was over the shores, but by the time it actually opened, I guess it was over the water again. That's annoying. Water, water, water. A lot of water. Okay, now we're approaching the shores again. Let's see if I can nail it this time. And there's a shores biome. All right, that's a success. Now we've got 3 biomes worth. Now we're over the tropics. Let's take a picture of that. 4 biomes. Okay, now we can go ahead and warp around to Australia, where we'll get a desert biome. I think we want to be right about there. And let's come feet dry into Australia. That's all on the west coast of Australia, so we need to move in a bit more. All right, so that now we're in desert. Take a picture of that. Even though it's nighttime, we can still do that. Bit cheaty, but that's okay. Now we'll go ahead and warp on up to Merca, where we will get mountains. Let's see, we want to be right about there, I think, to start with. And the question is, is there a place we can get highlands from this inclination? All right, we're still well off the coast. Let's warp a bit more. Now we're over the mountains. Mountains. All right. Now the question is there a place we can get highlands from a 28.3 degree orbit? So let's look at a map of the Earth. Tropics, desert. Okay, so we just need to wait, right, because like the middle of the US and a bunch of Asia is highlands. And of course also the southern half of South America is highlands. So we have to wait for our orbit to, let's move these out of the way, come around such that we can get that. So let's go ahead and warp at a rather higher rate for now. Let the Earth turn below us. And now where are things? So that's Australia. Okay, now we're focused on the Earth. All right, so that's the US. Where's our orbital path? So it looks like we'll go over this time. Yep, there's South America. All right, so let's go ahead and warp to here. All right, now let's see if we can get highlands. So we're high enough, looks like we're getting a bit of sunlight, unless, oh no, I think what's going on is, oh yeah, no, we're just getting the last fading rays of sunlight. Okay. What we can do, however, is go ahead and scrap that backup, since we don't actually need it anymore. Man, I have to say, I've been having really good luck with test flight recently. Still over the water. Whoa! No, 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 no. No, 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 no. That's my throttle being stupid. Probably because I touched my rudder pedals and that said, hey, wait, there's a joystick attached to this too, and there's throttle attached to that, and thankfully we have unlimited ignitions, or that would have been very bad. We're going to warp a little. Highlands, perfect. Transfer. All right, so now we're in fairly good shape. We're not going to get the poles because we're just not going to be high enough. But, you know, that's only one biome we've missed. So now we have to figure out, I don't have faith in not sinking, so we're going to go for a landing. So we need a node that's 109 meters per second. So what is our resource state? Electric charge, we're still quite good on electric charge. So let's go let the great world spin below us. Yeah, let's aim for a perigee, a re-entry perigee about here, which means we want to be about half world away. Add maneuver there. And we want about 109 meters per second. All right, and we're going a bit over because we can finish on RCS. Right, now that is enough to get a subterranean perigee. And it appears to go subterranean right about there. So we're going to want to move this node later. We're going to want to move it right about here, I think. Because, yeah, so we should land somewhere over Africa or Arabia. If we're really unlucky, we'll land right in the Gulf of Arabia. But, you know, that's life. So, or if we're unlucky, we'll land in the Himalayas and crash because we won't have enough chute drag. So node in 30, what is that, 33 minutes? Let's go ahead and, oh, we're out of connection, so we can't anyway. Now, is this node going to be somewhere there's connection? No. Let's move it forward until we will have connection, which is liable to be right about there. Unless, of course, we're getting a signal bounced back by one of these lunar satellite, one of those things. So now where does that put our... Yeah, I think we'll be okay. I think that will work. So let's warp to this. So we could get something of a recovery bonus if we landed, you know, near KSC. The issue is Florida is very narrow. So estimating exactly where we will end up, although, I mean, if we had trajectories installed, it would give us a... No, we still don't have any connection. So we're not bouncing off the satellite. Oh, I think I may never have actually enabled those antennas, but it doesn't really matter. I'm not experienced enough in targeting ballistic reentries from arbitrary orbits to feel comfortable nailing a reentry near KSC, given that I want to make sure that I end up on land. Okay, and we've passed our maneuver node and are still out of contact, even though we should have line of sight to that. Well, oh well. We'll just have to wait until we actually have line of sight. I could have just scheduled this burn with remote tech or something, but we'll do it on manual. All right, let's swing around to the node, which is not actually our node anymore because we're going to burn straight retro. Yeah, so now with our luck, we'll land in the Himalayas. All right, but let's go ahead and do this thing. Okay. So now we've aligned. We can close all this stuff. We can, let me check my RCS state. Okay, we still have enough. Ullaged and ignition. Okay. Now we need to, happily we are aligned with retrograde right now, but let's look at our new trajectory. All right, so we'll probably end up about there. So that's fine. Right. We're already aligned retrograde, so we don't have to worry so much about using RCS to align. And also, we do have RCS on that probe core. So we might as well burn off a little bit more velocity. Okay. Now, here is an interesting trick that I've taught myself from MechJeb. Let's get the maneuver planner. We're going to circularize at an altitude of 130. Now, you may ask yourself, why am I doing that? Well, the reason I'm doing that is because I want to know where I'm actually going to re-enter. And that's where 130 kilometers is going to be on my present orbit. So now that we know that, let's go full retrograde. That will tell us how to align to be perfectly retrograde at that point. So let's move up to that. Okay, we are aligned. So, nice knowing you, Mr. Stage, but it's time for us to leave. So, let's just check the state of our electric charge. We still had 60% in those, 60 and 80 in those batteries. So that's cool. So we're going to go ahead and decouple. That gave us quite a kick, which is fine because it takes us far away from that stage. And we've armed our parachute, so we should be okay. Now we can go ahead and kill this node. I can go ahead and turn that off. Let's turn that RCS on. And I think I'm actually going to tweak these down to only 38% each, because I really want MechJeb to sip. 98%. Okay, so we are going to go surface negative, turn all these off for now. And lastly, turn RCS on. Why is it doing that even though that confuses me? I've told it to not do any of these, and it's still trying to do these things. So we'll just oh, that's obnoxious of MechJeb. It actually had provided a control input. So we're gradually coming. There goes our stage. Okay, 160 kilometers. Looks like we're over either the Sahara or who knows. All right, so let's hold. Now we can hold SFIL. We do still have connection, presumably from. Where is our? Oh, we're centered on the Earth. Now we're centered on our actual craft. Connection from Palmachim. Oh, that must be the Israeli launch site. You watch, we're going to end up in the in the Gulf of Arabia. It's how it works. MechJeb is not having a good time. MechJeb is not having a good time aligning us at all. Oh, because we've used up all our nitrogen. Oh dear. That's bad. That's very bad indeed. Should not have even tried to control attitude. Should have just oh god. Huh. We're about to flip. Really hope that we get some serious aerodynamic force that realigns us. Because this is bad, and maybe I shouldn't have scrapped the other vessel. Oh dear. Yeah, there's really literally nothing we can do at this point, other than hope that we continue to keep reorienting. Angular velocity is holding. Angular velocity is decreasing, which is a bad sign. And it better not force us back prograde. The hope is that we will get low enough at just the right time. $125. All right, now angular velocity is increasing. It will probably increase enough that we swing all the way around and then get fixed prograde again, which would be royally bad. Now angular velocity is decreasing quite rapidly. It looks like we might just... I don't know. I just don't know. Okay. It looks like the air has bit enough that we're going to snap back to retrograde. The question is if we snap too far and burn off our parachute, for example. But good thing I chose the that wide heat shield so that there's a big shadow behind it. Yes, note to self, next time, 500 liters of nitrogen is not a lot of nitrogen, especially when MechJeb is spending it pretty freely. Passing through retrograde again. Passing the Kármán line. Should have just stayed on that heading and spun up. MechJeb's on. Why is MechJeb even... Yeah, okay. Okay, well, it looks like I am liable to be saved from an ignominious end by this actually working and being designed such that it really will orient itself quite correctly. Mostly just because I got lucky about where it ended its spin state, when it ended its spin state. Although, in fairness, we did keep redesigning that in the VAB until we got something that was seriously statically stable, even at Mach 30, Mach 25. If we hadn't done that, if we'd stuck with just like a little bit of stability, then I would have been boned. Then I would have been in deep trouble. So here we come. It's our first reentry from orbital speed. So we'll go ahead and close that, and close this, and check on the state of our contract. Reached orbital velocity, so now we just need to land or splash down. I think we can manage that part. $70 kilometers. Our sink rate is still increasing. Our entry angle is quite high, but we have a very low ballistic coefficient. Okay, so it looks like our predicted touchdown point is going to be right about there. Would be my guess. Now the flames start. The G load increases. 5 Gs. We're still like 60 kilometers up. We've lost signal, but that's okay. We've already armed our parachute. Had I been thinking, I would have set up analyzed telemetry on an action group so I could have gotten upper atmosphere from Earth's highlands or Earth's desert or whatever we're on now. Okay, the flames have mostly stopped. Our peak G was on ascent. Interesting. "40 kilometers and we're down to Mach 5. Under 4 Gs. Mach 2. 35 kilometers. Got a fair amount of elevation, but hopefully not so much that our parachutes don't. I think actually I may have over-parachuted anyway, because I'm not sure I adjusted the parachute after I took out the electric charge from that thing. Subsonic, and we're still almost 30 kilometers up. So the mains don't open until 4 kilometers. Well, the single main chute doesn't open until 4 kilometers. So we coast on down. I think at this point I feel fairly safe in putting on some time acceleration because, you know, it'll be a while. 20 kilometers, although 15 kilometers in true above ground. 10 kilometers above ground. 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, slowing down to 1x time acceleration. So it looks like 3.5 kilometers terrain height. The whole cap disappeared, so the RCS jets are just sitting there floating. It was set to a triple chute. I didn't notice that. I guess I was right about mains rather than main. That's for people who say that RSS has flat terrain. That does not look flat to me. That really does not look flat to me at all. And yeah, okay. So that actually looks appropriately mountainy. Okay, main chute deploys. Okay, so that's 6.3 meters per second. So we're really not much faster than design speed, which is pretty good given that we're going to be 3.5 kilometers above sea level. But as I said, I think I didn't readjust the chute after I removed the 50 kilograms of batteries from this thing. So that is probably why. That is probably why that is the case. 480 meters. Time to speed up the time again. 125 kilograms. We didn't use that much ablator. We used, all right, so we used, yeah, we charred. Oh, I wasn't even looking. And we went slightly through the terrain. I'm still not exactly sure why that is. Neither is Mu. There's something weird where the collider doesn't get the float imprecision between offsetting the terrain and the collider gets different. But at any rate, we have completed that contract. And boy, are we getting a lot of science. "69 science. That's pretty impressive. And recovery of a vessel returned from Earth orbit, we got 6 science from it. So that's a pretty good haul, gotta say. We get 458 funds, so we lose like what is that? 55, 60% of the value of that, but that's okay. Good cause. We still didn't get the polls, but it does mean we can go ahead and get, we already own that. So we definitely want electrics, because electrics give us folding solar panels, and they're great. And then once we get a little more science, we'll be able to get miniaturization and the Ranger Block 3 core, which is really, really nice. So that gives us one more upgrade. And we'll sink it into that. An even quarter of a science point per day. So we're at 50 points even. That's fairly good for, where are we? 1955. Now we need to start this upgrading. We have 16,000 funds. Let me first look and see what contracts we could get going forward. No. We would need to spend a ridiculous quantity of money to unlock all the parts we'll need for that. This is fairly trivial to do with a winged craft, particularly a boosted winged craft. This is what we just did. We can do achieve geostationary orbit soon. And happily, that will pay for the launch vehicle. Because we don't actually need much of a launch vehicle, we just need the same Scorpion B that we launched last time, which will put like a 300. Are basic solids done? I think basic solids might be almost done, because then we can use an Altair as a kick motor. So yeah, we'll go ahead and upgrade research and development, because we know we're going to need that badly. That leaves us with just under 17,000 funds. Then for the next episode, we can take that geostationary contract and put our first satellite in geostationary orbit. But as I said, that will be the next episode. For now, thanks everybody for watching. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope that you learned something, and I hope to see you again soon. Thanks again, and bye-bye.